Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop, and today we are going to be wrenching on an ATV. I've done a lot of ATVs in my day, wrenched on a lot of different things, different brands, and none of which were ever this clean. I mean, look at this thing, right down to the tires, even in between the knobs. This thing is just, it's clean everywhere. It amazes me, it almost looks showroom. And other than one small leak in the front diff, which we're going to be addressing today, it's clean. So, and you're probably thinking to yourself right now, well, that's probably because, yeah, sure, this is a 2008, but it doesn't have much mileage. It probably gets trailered around, probably just does, you know, the odd dirt road here and there. Maybe so. However, this thing has 7,774 kilometers. That's quite a few kilometers when it comes to, I mean, ATVs, and at least what I consider. So I forgot to check the engine hours. We're going to check that in a minute. But that brings me to something real quick is, like, this makes me happy. As a mechanic, working on a piece of equipment, especially outdoors, like power equipment, this makes me happy. If you have a mechanic and you bring your stuff regularly too, you want to make him happy? Do this. Keep your stuff clean. Bring it. I mean, you don't have to keep it clean. Use it. Have fun with it. If I turn my camera over to my Wildcat, it's not looking like this. It's dirty. I just took a ride. I haven't cleaned it yet. But if you want to keep your mechanic happy, do a nice cleanup before you bring it in. It'll make the job a lot easier for him. I guarantee he's going to appreciate it, and it's probably going to make better work in the long run. So all that being said, what is this thing in for today? Well, I already talked about the leaking front diff, and my neighbor, this is my neighbor's bike, also asked me to do all the fluids, so front to back, and he also asked me to replace the drive belt. This thing has a transmission as a drive belt, so to speak, so the belt is always engaged. They last a long time, clearly. However, they do wear over time, just like a previous video where I did my father-in-law's Rhino belt. Which was, I mean, it was already worn down. I mean, it took 10 years to get there. But anywho, without any more talking, let's pick it up off the ground. We'll start with the basics. We're going to start efficiently by draining all the fluids and then see what we need to do to tackle that front diff. Okay, so up front here, we've got our little drain plug right there. That's a 8mm wrench that you need to take that off. And then we're going to also, at the top on the right side, or sorry, the left side if you're sitting on it, we have a fill plug and also a level check. And we're going to remove one of those two to help the fluid drain. We're going to do the same thing in the back, and then we're going to crawl underneath in the middle and find, where is it? It's in here somewhere. But we're going to find the oil plug for the engine and drain all of those three fluids all at once. And I'm going to try and do this without making a mess. I know I say that every video that I do an oil change, and actually there was a comment about that today at work, that apparently every time I do an oil change, there's always a few drops on the floor. I mean, I can't seem to help it. As clean as I try and be, especially with oil, it tends to run away from me. So today's the day though. Today's going to be easier. I'm going to get it done. Alright, there you go. And I'm not sure if you see it on camera, but it's not the greatest. Looks like water got in there. Kind of like a purplish color. It's kind of weird. Oh, and fun fact, these drain plugs have a magnet on the end, so it collects any kind of foreign debris. And this one doesn't have too much. We're going to wipe it clean, and then we'll be all right. But yeah, just so you know, because the oil level plug is the same, however, with no magnet. I always put the magnet on the bottom. Now I'm going to undo the oil level plug in hopes that it's going to drain out a little bit quicker here. See what happens. And absolutely nothing. But again, to compare the two plugs, ow, that's the winch. To compare the two plugs, this is your drain plug, this is your oil level. So, makes sense to put the magnet on the bottom. Anyways, let's let that drain, move to the back, do the same thing. There you go, right into the drain pan, no mess. Alright, where is that engine plug? There it is. That's not a bad deal. So that's a 21 that you need there, and then that should fall directly into the drain pan below. And let me show you how it's done. 21 on there, righty tighty lefty loosey, break that free, and simply right into the pan. Come on, better be. And drop. Yeah! Woo! That's exciting because that's like the first time in a long time that I haven't made a mess. And the oil's nice. Not too bad. Again, I like these Articats because they've got magnets on every one of their drain plugs. And again, this one doesn't look too severe. A couple little fuzzies on there, but nothing too much to talk about. So we're going to clean them up. Once the oil's done dripping, put them back in. Man, now for the oil filter. And in order to try and keep it as uneventful as possible, the way it kind of is right now, what I did is I makeshifted a funnel because this is in the wrong spot. Like, this is a terrible spot to have an oil filter and not make a mess. So I've got my drain pan directly below this paper, hopefully. That's all it is, just a piece of paper crumbled up. And I'm going to slowly remove it and hope that it follows the paper down into the train, like the drain pan. That's the plan. Slowly. Oh yeah, it's working. It's working. Slowly make its way this way. Yes. Come on. Is it gonna go? Question is it gonna go into the pan? Hope it does. Oh yeah. Perfect. So far, successful oil change in the sense of no mess. And there you go. Now, let's put the new one on right away. So, a little bit of grease on the O-ring here, or the seal. Whether you want to use grease or fresh oil, doesn't really matter. Something to help that seal not stick next time is better. And make sure you get that nice and tight so that it doesn't come loose or leak. And there you have it. Now we can move on to this leak right here. Figure out how we're going to deal with that. Alright, so here's the plan. With the wheel removed here, I'm going to see if I can cheat, because normally you have to remove the differential and do this on the bench. I'm going to try and do it in the bike. May or may not work. We're going to find out. I'm going to start by removing the little boots here. And if you guys have watched my channel for a little bit, I did this on the Articat, my Wildcat. And just like on the Wildcat, these things are reusable. So don't cut them off. You just use one of these pliers or a side cutter, and you can squeeze them and then unclip them, or a flat screwdriver works too. Then I'm going to remove the four-wheel drive actuator, and I'm going to try, I might not actually be able to do it, but I'm going to try to remove the coupler from the differential in the bike. This is part of the holder too, so I might have to loosen the differential and just kind of lift it up so that the input shaft housing can come out. Like I said, here's the whole thing, because otherwise it is a big job to remove this from the bike. But I have confidence. I think we can do this. So let's get started. Just like that. Nice and easy. Got the one clip out. And now, with some T40s, I'm going to undo the actuator and get it out of the way. Might have to work on the other side a little bit as well. Alright, with the 3 Torx screws removed, it should come right out. There we go. Nice. Put that aside. Okay, so what I'm hoping to do here, because this drive shaft is still in place, I'm going to hope that I can remove the 3 bolts here, which are T40s, and I'll be able to loosen up the coupler. This bracket is a bracket that's for holding the actuator. I see that now. And if I can get all this loosened up, I might be able to just kind of slide it out kind of with the shaft, hopefully. If not, well, then I'm going to have to figure out a way to, well, slide the whole differential forward in order to disconnect the input shaft. So let's hope we don't get there. Maybe, like I said, I'm trying to cheat here. And sometimes cheating is nice and it saves time, but then other times it doesn't always work. Okay, now with the bolts removed and the plates gone, my hope is that if I give this a little bit of a whack, it's going to break free and I'll be able to slide it back and out. Okay, that broke free pretty quickly. I keep kicking the camera, sorry guys. I'm trying to show you guys what I see. Why is there oil in there? That should have drained out. Am I going to be able to sneak this out? That's the question. Okay, so I've repositioned the camera so that I can actually get in there. And I've had to move the light as well. You may not have as good lighting. But let me see if I can muscle this out, because that would be really neat. Alright, so after trying every which way, I'm close to getting that input coupler off, but it's just not coming off. And even if I did get it out, by chance, I gotta put it back in. So, next plan of attack is I'm gonna try and loosen up the bolts, slide the whole differential forward, because I only need about 1 inch, and I could probably get that out, no problem. And then, yeah, we'll fix it on the bench, I guess. We'll put the new seal and carry on. So, no, you can't. Alright, so this is why I don't like taking shortcuts, because it's like the bike ends up biting me back. So, in order to get this bolt out, I had to pull the bolt holding the top suspension link, which wasn't exactly fun. So now all the bolts are out. The differential should be loose. Yeah, it's loose. So now what I need to do is put the camera back down and hope that I have enough space between this plate and the diff to get, well, the coupler out. Guys, I did it. I managed to get it out without taking the diff, now, along with it. So I use a screwdriver here to kind of keep it from sliding like back to its original spot, because that's what it wants to do. You really don't have any more room than this. That's it. You only have basically half a hole to work with there. So what I did, and I don't recommend doing it at all, honestly, take the diff out, because this is ridiculous. It took me like 45 minutes of struggling here. That struggle bus just wouldn't let me off. But anyways, I managed to, I'll show you on the bench in a second, but I managed to pull the shift fork out along with the collar and the little spring, all that stuff. One piece at a time. I managed to pull the collar out first, and then slowly but surely I pulled the shift fork pin out, and then the shift fork came along. And there's one long pin that actuates it from the actuator. I mean, everything's kind of delicate. Like, check this out. So this is what we did. Started with pulling this out, the collar. Then I pulled out this pin right here, right over here, and then the shift fork came along with it. This one is attached to the shift fork. The reason I don't recommend it is because they're super delicate. I mean, you could probably bend these fairly easily, especially since this one's got an O-ring part of it, so there's a ridge there that would probably allow it to bend. Luckily, if I roll it here, we're in good shape. Didn't bend anything there, so that's cool. But that's how I did it. Really don't recommend it. But it worked. So I am going to start by pulling the C-clip out here, taking the cover off, giving access to the seal, replacing it, and I also got, of course, another flange seal here that we're going to RTV in place and then go all back together and see how the belt goes. Alright, so it's the next day. I had time to get this all cleaned up, and I figured may as well explain a little bit how this works. It's actually quite simple. So, like I was explaining, you've got yourself a shift fork. If I can take it all apart now, since I just put it back together. So you got yourself a shift fork. Then you've also got, sorry, just making sure my microphone's on. I don't know how many times I've started making videos and my microphone was off. Shift fork, you got your collar, and then you got your spring to return it. So if I put this back together, I'll be able to explain a little bit how it works. I won't need the spring, but what I can do is if I put this at a slight angle, I'll show you guys that the collar is rotating with the input shaft, right? Now, if I wanted to disengage the four-wheel drive, what I would do is I would activate that actuator, and then I would push the collar out of the way. It's going to fall because it's not lined up. I would push the collar out of the way right off the splines, and that would disengage it. In this case, it's off the splines, but in actuality, it just slides into the other shaft. The collar, in order to activate four-wheel drive, is, well, it's literally 50-50 on one shaft to make the two shafts kind of, well, one. So that's how that works. But now, what we have to do is we have to remove the circlip inside, and we're going to just gain access to our seal so we can remove it, replace it, and carry on with the rest of the work here. Well, that's a pretty stiff circlip. I'm going to put my hand over that so it doesn't fly. There we go. Alright. Well, that just falls right out like that. And there's the seal. And this is what tends to happen. You get a little bit of buildup of dirt that happens to come in between these two items. And then if you can't wash it out, what happens is it migrates towards the seal and it cuts it open. So now that you know that, you also know where to clean when you're pressure washing your bike or doing any kind of detailing. So I'm gonna just wipe away some of this dirt because, well, there's actually a significant amount of dirt. And as you saw, the bike's super clean. So it's just from riding. Doesn't necessarily mean anything if I wipe this clean, but I will anyways. And yes, there are some seal removers, but in reality, you can use either a screwdriver. I'm going to try and use my pliers here because they're angled, and then just kind of pry it out beautifully, just like that. Again, more cleaning inside here. Always like to make sure that the mating surfaces are clear of any dirt. And now we go get our new seal. Here's our new seal, and in case you're following along and you're doing this at home, part number for this seal is 1402-011 from Arctic Cat. So, genuine part. Open up the bag here and just take a look at the seal, make sure there's nothing missing. You never know nowadays. Everything looks okay. So there's an extra step that I do, and again, this is an extra step. You don't necessarily have to do this. Something I started doing a while back, and it works. This is just a little bit of RTV, and I'm going to put some on the outside lip of the seal. Does two things. It helps it slide in place, and once it's dry, it does help prevent any liquids or any foreign objects from getting in there. It is a press fit, so you don't really have to do this, but this is just one of my things that I like to do. Just an extra little insurance, I guess. Don't have to go crazy with it, but you line it up as square as possible. And I like to get it started with my thumbs before I go too crazy. And then once it's in there part way, you can using a rubber mallet. Just kind of tap all the way around until it falls in place. There you go. Wipe the excess. Alright, now again, this is another extra, but this one I do believe is worth your time. And that's to put a bit of grease inside the two lips of that new seal. So, what grease? Well, it's whatever you really have on hand, but I like to use a number 2 grease or something that's kind of tacky. So this happens to be, actually it's a number 1, but it's very tacky stuff. Got that little, well actually you can see the tack build up. And I just find that it helps prevent any scoring of the seal on the first few turns, because it will be lubricated by the oil from the differential. And then we just go back together. So making sure that, of course, all your components are clean. And you can go an extra little bit by putting some right along where the seal sits. Back in we go. Just like that. Along with our clip. And this one here, very important that you make sure it sits into the groove, because if it doesn't, that could be a bad thing. Alright, now we can go ahead and put this back into the ATV, and of course lubricate your splines on both ends since you have it apart. It's a good idea to do that. And of course you're going to have to replace the gasket, which again, if you're following along, and the part number for that is 0402-947, in case you were interested. And it's actually like a very thin, like paper gasket. It doesn't need to be thick because it's a machine surface, and I'm pretty sure, not that I would try it, but I'm pretty sure you could probably get away with some RTV all the way along. And as a matter of fact, I put a very, very small film of RTV so that it helps keep the gasket in place. And I put a little bit on the other side as well. I mean, I'm talking like just a film. Spray gasket, like that stuff in a can, works even better, which is probably what I'm going to use, come to think of it. So after that's all done, tackified, I'm going to reassemble. And really, I'm not going to put this on film because it was quite the struggle to get it out. And I can only imagine the amount of words that are going to come out of my mouth when I'm struggling with that. What I'm going to do is the exact reverse of what I did to get it out. In the next scene, it'll be all bolted together, and I'll show you guys that it actually works electronically. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't take me 2 days to get there. Alright, she's all back together, including the 2 reusable bands over here. The actuator's back in place. Everything's in place. It was easier this time because I found a bit of a trick. So earlier, if you remember, I only had about, I don't know, half a hole of movement forward. Well, if you, it's hard to show you guys, but if you tuck this ear, if you take it out of its pocket and you kind of like bring it a little bit towards me and then up, you can get that much more, which is like you can get this ear basically to the front of this holder, like the bolt. And it was a lot easier to slide everything in. So is it still possible? Yes. I still probably would do the whole front differential out next time I do this. But anyways, what I want to show you guys is that yes, it's working. So if right now, it's in neutral, or sorry, it's in 2-wheel drive. So if we look at the wheel on the opposite side, I'm going to spin the hub over here with my light. Sorry, trying to do too many things at once. You'll notice that as I spin the hub, the wheel does not move because it's not engaged. If I go up here, I engage. Here's the 4-wheel drive. Now, as I spin this hub, the wheel will spin the opposite way. And that proves that, yeah, 4-wheel drive is not working. So now that the 4-wheel drive is working, we have to deal with changing the belt in here. And that involves removing all of the footrest bolts. And being that this is a TRV, yeah, it's actually got 2 footrests, including all of the surrounding bolts there. that should do it. Unless, of course, I forgot something, which possibly have. Oh yeah, of course I did. You got these 4 bolts that are holding these foot pegs down. Let's get those done. There you go, 1. And this guy should come out too. Oh, 1 more over here. Forgot about that guy. You gonna come out now? Or are you gonna have another hidden one for me? Okay. Gotta remember where that went. It's a matter of maneuvering this thing out from around the foot brake. Come on now. Just like that. And that went yonder over here somewhere. I gotta find out where that went. Unfortunately, I still gotta remove the actual foot control because there's 2 bolts that you just cannot gain access to right back here. So there's a bunch of bolts obviously around the perimeter of the case, but those 2, doesn't matter, you can't get them out. Oh, and I should say too, if you're doing this at home and you notice that there's a longer bolt from one specific hole, maybe mark that bolt or that hole so you know where it's going. Keep that in mind. Okay, then using a rubber knockometer, we're going to give this a little bit of a tap to loosen that gasket. Just like that. Let's hope it worked out because it just kind of unglued all of itself. And it probably would have been easier if I unbolted. I guess I'm going to have to. I'm going to remove yet one more part to make it easier and not tear that gasket. And that is the foot brake. Should have done that first. The hard part is resetting this spring though. That's always fun. But on a good note, ta-da! The gasket's in good shape. So we just saved $180 plus taxes. So while we're in here, we're going to give this a nice clean, and we're going to also check this pilot bearing to make sure that it's okay. There's a seal and all that stuff in there to make sure the bearing is in good shape, but sometimes you can get in there and just kind of give it a feel. This one feels pretty good. And then we're going to put a little bit of grease in there again, maybe grease on the tip of the shaft. So those are things we're going to look for. But now we can start by replacing the belt. And here we're also going to give all of this kind of a light dusting with the fan on. I always recommend putting a mask because this stuff is nasty, all that belt dust, you don't want to breathe that in. So what we're going to do now, we don't need to remove the secondary, but we are going to push it in using a tool or a bolt of the right caliber or thread and size. Open up the secondary. Alright, so I found the bolt that fits, and we're going to take our time doing it manually. We're going to slowly tighten this up. So I'm running out of thread on my bolt here. Almost there. Maybe one more. Yeah, that's about it there. That's what I'm going to get. Now let's see if we can slide it over. And, well, this is the old one. I don't know. Just for comparison, with that much mileage, are any of you curious to see how much wear there is compared to the new one? Because I know I am. Let's go to the bench. So here's the old one, and I've set the, I zeroed the mic, or the caliper, sorry. Got it on millimeters, simply because it's a little bit easier to read as well. It's more of a round number. So here we have, if I go flat like that, hopefully you guys can see it in the camera, we got 28.665. Let's say 6.5, because changes a little bit. Oh, I'm also wearing gloves. You might be wondering, right? That's because I don't want to transfer any kind of oils or gunk onto the new belt. I'm going to try and hold it from the outside, of course, and not touch the mating surfaces. Let's measure this one. And I am impressed. Didn't lose a whole bunch, not like the Yamaha. 28.74. So it's literally like 0.12, 13-ish millimeters on that belt. Granted, it didn't have as much mileage as the Yamaha, because the Yamaha had 1,100 miles, or sorry, 11, I can't remember, I gotta go back, but I want to say it was 11,000 miles. It's a lot anyways, so almost double, or at least double what we have mileage on this thing, but it's going to be, it'll feel nice to put a new belt on, and we're going to go do that right now with a couple of precautions. Alright, so with some hearing protection, eye protection, gloves, let's turn the fan on. You can already hear the compressor doing this thing. See how much gunk we get out of this CVT assembly. Oh yeah. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, that in reality wasn't all that bad. I've seen it way worse than that. You don't need to have it spick and span in here. What does need to be clean and free of any grease or foreign materials is the faces. So here I have hopefully the word Scotch-Brite isn't, let's say, I hope it's not copyrighted. But anyways, this is what that is. It's a maroon one, and I'm going to scrub the faces of both clutches, and then once I'm done that, we're going to clean it, but not with what you think. This has already sparked a bunch of debate, but hold on for that part. So let's give it a nice scrub. Now that that's all cleaned up, let's go get that special cleaner that I was talking about. And here it is. How many of you were expecting me to wash this belt as well as the sheaves with brake clean? I used to do that a lot, and turns out there's actually a little bit of residue that's left over from brake clean. You can see a previous video of mine that I did on my Arctic Cat where I showed that difference. So after doing some research, what they recommend, a lot of belt manufacturers recommend it, as well as some OEM manufacturers, alcohol or acetone. Now, I use alcohol. It's pretty cheap. You can find this at your local store, parts store anywhere. This happens to be, methyl alcohol by Clean Flow. Not sponsored, by the way, but I don't use the new brake clean. I try and avoid the new brake clean as much as possible because that stuff doesn't even clean dust off Teflon. It's terrible stuff. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, at least in Canada, they removed the CFCs in it, I believe is what it was. Anyways, it's terrible stuff now. It stinks, doesn't clean anything. Anyways, this is what I use. I'm going to pour the alcohol right onto the rag. That way there I'm not contaminating my bottle of alcohol. This is a clean rag, and just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, I'm going to do a couple of swipes on the primary here. Inside and outside. And just that little bit of cleaning, this is what we got. So this will now hopefully help the new belt break in. Actually, it will help break in the belt, but it's also going to promote a longer life on that belt because it won't spin, it won't slip on these clutches. So a nice cleaning here, and I'm going to do the same to the belt itself. Secondary is a little easier because you can spin it better. Quick wipe on both sides, and I'm sure you guys know that there's a direction on these belts. I'm going to show you anyways because we're here, and some of the newer belts now actually show an arrow. which in this case, there is one. Which is a little bit odd to me, because I would have normally told you if there's no arrow, make sure you can read the writing. However, if I focus on this, there's the writing, and there's the arrow. It's actually upside down. It would be mounted this way. So, if you got an arrow, follow the arrow. If I push it nice and deep into the secondary, take my time spinning it. Oh yeah, that's going to be just perfect. Nothing wrong with that. Make sure it comes in the bottom here. Yeah. Beautiful. That worked out perfectly. Now another thing you need to, while you're in here, make sure that your weights, you didn't push in this primary clutch. Make sure you didn't allow any of the weights to fall. If you do remove the primary, there is a spline on the end of this shaft, and there's a spline on this cover. Make sure that you fully seat that spline before you torque the nut. Because if you don't do that, you will destroy the cover, and it's just going to cause your clutch to work out. It's going to work weird. I've seen it before, and it slips because everything's kind of spinning. It doesn't work as intended, so be aware of that. But now that we've got all of our belt in place, we're going to remove our bolt. And I probably could have used a slightly longer bolt that would have made that a bit easier. But this is what I have. If you don't have one, you could, pretty sure you could use one of the bolts. Yeah, exactly. So you could use one of the cover bolts to go around and do the same job. And, well, actually, you'd have the same result because according to the bolt I found, you got the same amount of thread. So there's that. Now we're going to spin this so that the secondary makes its way all the way to the top. Come on now. Getting there. And what this is going to do is just going to make it easier on the first startup so that it's not going to want to spin or cause the weights to fly away or sideways, because there is rollers in here and they could fall, and if they did, well then that usually kind of catastrophic to the clutch. So now that we got the belt all tight, primary's tight, now we can go ahead, put a little bit of, I already have cleaned the cover. Again, it wasn't super dusty, and there's no real sense of making this 100% perfect. So we're going to put a lick of grease in here, RTV around the gasket, bolt it all up. Alright, cover's all back together, and before you guys ask me, I know some of you are going to ask me, what is the torque spec on any of these nuts? Well, the movable sheave nut, the big large one, that's 80 foot-pounds. Looked it up for you guys. And this one here, these little guys, they're only 8 foot-pounds. So 80 on the big nut, 8 on the small ones. Now we're going to put a little bit more of that blue grease that I got. It's actually quite a nice color. I'm going to do this for the foot brake. It's going to help it move along that much easier. Now I get to figure out how to put the spring back on this. So that should be a lot of fun. Got it. Okay. Put that bolt back in before it pops out again. And now we get to reassemble. Alright, and just like that, it's all back together. Except for the first time in like forever, it's dirtier than it was before. Normally things are usually cleaner because, you know, the bikes are so messy, I end up wiping off a lot of dirt. But actually, because there's a little bit of dirt trapped underneath these foot pegs and some of the nooks and crannies, the plastics are dusty. I feel terrible. I'm gonna have to wash it for them. And for filling the diffs, this is a nice little tool that I like to use. Just a little pump. You use these for marine use on the foot when you're trying to pump the gear oil from the bottom. Also works well for filling up your differentials. And there's one more thing that I wanted to add on the Arctic Cats. I mentioned it earlier, I think, but there's a fill plug and there's also a level plug just below it. Make sure you pull that one out and fill it only up to there. If you fill it to the top of the fill plug, it's a little bit too much because these diffs are completely sealed with a little bellows on the top, and I've seen it where it causes leaks in your seals because you're building too much pressure. So after we've got everything filled up, we'll fire it up, go for a little bit of a ride, see if there's anything else that this thing might need. Alright, so the oil change is all done. Let's button it up, get some gear on, take it out for a quick rip. I don't want to go off-road because it's really clean. I don't really want to clean it any more than it already is. So anyways, let's go out for a little rip, see what it's like, and then go from there. Alright guys, here we are. It might be a little windy. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing me, but this thing runs extremely well. Super smooth, nice and quiet. We are going on a regular road here, so it's not exactly super bumpy, but this thing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It runs fantastic, which is what I expected, because even though it's got some mileage, this is a beautiful little bike. There you have it, guys, and that'll do it for today's video. If you're still watching by this point, you guys are awesome. And usually it's also at this point where I'll give you guys a tip of the day. And I would say today's tip of the day is, well, it pays to clean your machine. Because as you heard in that ride, or hopefully heard, because I haven't reviewed the video footage yet, but there's no creaks or cracks coming out of anywhere on this bike. It runs really well. And I'm super happy to work on it. So, like I said earlier in the video, if you want to make your mechanic happy, bring in your stuff clean. It just makes it a lot easier for us to wrench on it, and we see maybe some underlying issues that could become a potential problem later, and we can address them then, right away. So that'll be the tip of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and otherwise I hope you enjoy your day. A beautiful sunny day right now, and I might go take out the Wildcat, maybe just after I get Susie ready for another season. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.